Jody and I saw a picture of us from the first season, like a still, and we were both like, oh my God, who is that? It was creatively, we had to kind of wrap it up. It was very, very challenging, I think, the entire time to keep that type of tension while authentically growing and developing the character's relationship. So I think for me, this always for me has to feel correct to end the show is if it ends correctly creatively, and I think that it did.
Someone has been killing members of the 12. I need you to continue the investigation.
You're still playing the same old game of chess.
So what game are you playing?
I've hungered for your touch.
What are you doing?
Trying to show you I've changed.
If you'd really changed, you wouldn't have come here.
Oh, if you'd really changed, you wouldn't have let me.
Jody and I always really enjoy working together, and I think the majority of Killing Eve, we would spend lots of chunks of times apart and usually come back together at the end of the season, and this is also the same. What I loved was about exactly that, and really, really, really working very closely with the writers to develop this, is that I just felt that for the audience, it's just Act 4. It's Act 4 that they have in some ways a normal relationship, meaning that it's boring, that they're driving, that there's a simple kind of simplicity of being free, and it's their most quiet. They are away from the craziness, they're away from the 12, and they're actually just together, and their intimacy grows because barriers are broken down. And I think finally, Eve, when she comes to Villanelle and basically says, you should know why I'm here, it's kind of like, let's just cut the bullshit. You know why I'm here. There's a bigger level thing of like stuff to do, but you should feel why I'm here. And I think that does get through, the start where there's like an intimate moment where Villanelle is lifting up Eve's shirt to look at her scar, to try and find it. And Eve's just like, what is going on? And Villanelle delightfully says, let's continue on this journey. Let's just go steal their stuff and get out of here. And then for me, it was great to play. It was really fun to play. But it was also in the creative space, but you're not exactly sure what's happening. You're not exactly sure what's coming. While we were trying to make it a surprising kiss, an authentic kiss, it's like Jody and I didn't really talk about it at all. The kiss was moved around a bunch of places. And for me, I was like, this is where this should happen. We just have a really, really intimate moment of peeing beside someone, right? And then it was just like the walk, this is the moment before the calm before the storm. Stella just rolled the camera and it was just like, when it feels right, do what you need to do and be together and free for a second. And that's what happened. It really, really felt great. It felt really, really great when we did it. We both could feel it. There was a suggestion of a kiss actually in that, but the sense of the scene changed in that moment where they're lying together in bed. Do you know what I mean? Because there's so much that Villanelle never says. Her emotional life is in her actions. And you see Eve talking about it much more, right? So it was like, how do we come to this is so intimate. Should we bring the intimacy here in this moment? And that there's an agreement. You know what I mean? It's that the kiss will mean different things. There was a kiss a bit later, and for me, I felt it was like too quick because it's like, for me, I just wanted them isolated so they could really just be together in complete privacy. And I love that they're in the middle of the woods, basically. And they just seem to have a lot of privacy to be themselves and be, even both of them are actually joyful for a second. And I think a lot of people, if you get to have that moment in your life, you know what that is. you know what that is, and that it's not some crazy faraway thing, where it's like, some romantic notion that's not achievable. They actually get the achievable. They really get it. They achieve it. And I've always been fascinated by the title of our show. There's a lot of ways to interpret what that is. And I've said this before, but, before the world changed for everyone so drastically, at the beginning of 2020, it was different. It wasn't Villanelle who was going to die. It was probably going to be me. But then as we went through the pandemic and so many things have changed, the writers were like, we need to pivot. And I'm like, okay, I totally get it. I totally get it. And also in the way of like, the people who come to the show through Eve, right? She's our every person. Villanelle is still, in some ways, a fantastical character. She is outside the boundaries. I mean, so is Eve too, but she's outside the boundaries of these worlds, and she's almost magical in that way. To get the everydayness of the every woman who actually survives all of this, I thought that was correct. And that Eve should survive. The boat and then the water above and below of it, right? Why it was hilarious and ridiculous, but also correct, is that Eve is life. And what Villanelle realizes when she's seeing Eve dancing and after she's killed everyone is that she's death, right? She is. So you have the symbolism of like on top, you have a marriage, you have love, you have celebration, you have joy. And underneath, you have violence, you have power, you have this, and you have destruction. So the intercutting of it was important to us. And then when the fall happened in the water, and I will say the idea of the two women falling in water somehow was always a part of it. It was like, who's going to come up? It was like, who's going to come up alive? Or, were we all both going to die? Again, you can say so much storytelling in cinematically and also in action, where she tries to reach her. And then, because it's also, that's also the heartbeat of the romance of the show.
Do you know that fable about the scorpion and the frog? They hook up? They both die. Because the scorpion can't change its nature.
Maybe you're the scorpion.
The moment when I feel like everything kind of fell into place when Villanelle is watching Eve dancing, because I feel you get this sense of Villanelle's humanity the most. And that's the moment where the thing that she's been searching for, you see it happen to her. And it happens to her through Eve. You know what I mean? And ultimately, the every woman's survival, Eve gets, and it happens through Villanelle. That's ultimately what they get from each other. You know what I mean? There is the romance, right? And it's all, anyone who's gone through like a good romance or a bad romance, it's like what you can gather from it. How much it teaches you about yourself. Because that's episode 7 is kind of like, Eve's most kind of thoughtful episode. And I needed an emotional charge to that episode. So they said, oh, she's going to sing karaoke. And I was just like, why? And they said, oh, it just said it somewhere. And I knew what they could not possibly know was that there is footage from the pilot that was never put into the show. So that karaoke scene was the original opening to Killing Eve. And then Phoebe changed it and we shot something else. But I knew, I'm like, there is footage. Because I was like, okay, if you want me to be in the karaoke, I know I can make an emotional moment out of it to didn't exactly demonstrate that change where she feels how much her life has changed, how much she has lost, the stakes of it all. So it was great to see that footage, you know what I mean, beside each other. And then you can have the comparison, because I will say, when we were doing some press, Jodie and I saw a picture of us from the first season, like a still. And we were both like, oh my God, who is that? We both felt, and I absolutely felt so strongly that Eve changed completely physically. And I really wanted to start the season strong with her change because, one, I thought it was right dramatically, and action-wise, we wanted to put her in, I wanted to put her in a very, very active place. So let's start this change and then push it into where I've always felt this show is a more kind of thoughtful or existential place, where, because this show is about the inside of a woman's head. Do you know what I mean? And how we deal with the larger structures that are trying to kill us. You know what I mean? It's right after the karaoke scene. Eve is at a place where she just doesn't know how to go on. And Martin, the therapist, is basically saying, you need to make it smaller. You need to basically go to the people who you love and who love her, which is what spurs her to go to see Villanelle, right? But it's those basic things that I deeply felt that I had to come in touch with myself, and I'm sure many people did during the pandemic. What are the things that matter? How do we go on? How do we survive? Those things really affected and influenced, I know, how I played the character and how I wanted to develop the character. Oh, there's so many scene stealers. You know what I mean? In Killing Eve, I gotta tell you, probably Fiona Shaw. Do you know what I mean? As she queenly comes in and out of scenes, she would always dominate scenes too. Yeah.